Hello. Hi. 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 Hey. Ha. Ha. Ho. Ho. Hey. Ha. Hey. Ho. Yeah, so yeah, I was out, of course, doing the whole candy and dress up thing as a werewolf. Just for those of you that care. And trying to save Megan from a Minmus orbit, told her not to take the keys. What does that mean? I'm trying to remember which one I used for my three-part thing. Tourman, maybe? No. XS1? No, it wouldn't be that. Speedrunner, speeder, speed, or C. Oh, actually, no, it's 17 flights in progress. That might be it. Let's try that. Best places to hand out king-size bars, or in strange cases, razor scooters, when those were a thing. I remember that was... Yes, this is it. Okay, fat man. So yes, if you remember, we were doing this thing where I tried to get everywhere using just 3 parts. So, what I want to do, I guess, is get into low Duna orbit, and then we'll rendezvous there, and then we'll try and land. Hey-ly ho, ho ho. Okay, so let's try this. Oh, that's too much. So this is right. The plan here is we're going to continue what I previously started, and essentially we are going to hit every single planet or land on every single planet using the spacecraft, which is made of a total of 3 parts. Okay, 42 minutes. That's going to be pretty good. And now the next thing I need to do is take a look and see how the inclination is modified. And I should probably fix that now if I have a chance. That's one option. That's 171 meters per second, huh? Okay. That is, you know what, wait a second, what we should do is set that as my target so we get the inclination. Right, there we go. And we'll see if we can adjust this. So we're just trying to get into an orbit which is relatively controllable, and actually we'll put my ascending node there. This might actually just be fine. We'll just do this. So I'm going to slow the thing down and bring my ascending node, or sorry, my periapsis high enough that I'm not going to notice, like 60 kilometers. And then we'll make the relevant corrections to the orbit 8. Okay, that's interesting. The ascending node is not changing very much. Whatever, let's just go for it. So, right click, how is everybody? We're going to warp to the next maneuver, and then we are going to burn ourselves out of here, of course. We are continuing from last week. This is going to be a grand undertaking, a long process. Jebediah Kerbin has everywhere. He is going everywhere. He's doing everything because he's Jebediah. So we're going to refuel in low Duna orbit. Land on Duna, possibly refuel on Duna, and then we'll go to Dres next. I think Dres is the obvious place. So I can only use... No, here's the thing. The spacecraft is only 3 parts. We have a capsule, we have a fuel tank, and we have this tiny engine in the bottom. And, yeah, this is going to be fine. So I can only use 3 parts. 139 meters per second, and it tells me that it thinks I have... Why doesn't it tell me my total... Delta V is 1200. So I could almost land with that thing. Have I tried to create Falcon 9 launch before with landing on a drone ship with no autosave? I've not done that. No, I had to use saves. Let's put it that way. And we go. Ooh. Let's bring this down. to about 100 kilometers. Okay, that'll do. So let's head out to the sphere of influence. Say farewell, Ike. Farewell, Ike. No, I mean, say farewell to Ike. Ike. What are you talking about? Add a Kerbal and an infinitely fueled KMU pack. Yeah, I'm hoping I won't have to use that very often. Technically, I could have probably got an ascent path which didn't need it, but it was just kind of convenient. That's nice. Okay, so our ascending node is there. What I'm going to do, right, once we get through this, I'm going to perform a descending node burn, right? So we want to do anti-normal, radial. I think anti-normal is it? Yes. Yeah, anti-normal. So we're going to push this down, and that will push the ascending node around and bring it out close to me. That's relatively close. We're still going pretty slowly there. So I'm then going to warp to this spot here. Warp here. And then we'll burn normal so that we'll correct our relative inclination down. So the relative inclination here is 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh. So I'm trying to just get into the same plane as the depot so I can refuel. Now, actually, I mean, I have about... I may have enough delta V to actually land this. I've got about 1 kilometer per second of delta V. And maybe I should do like an Alt F5 save Duna no refuel. Actually, I should probably refuel in orbit. I think that's probably best. If I can land it, and then that means I don't have to worry about driving a lander across the surface. That's the thing that I really want to avoid doing. So I'm going to try refueling in orbit first. So warp here, retrograde. Look at us come down. And we'll try and rendezvous with the target spacecraft. And I messed up my inclination, I think. Yeah, ascending node is messed. I'll fix it up, because I didn't wait for my spacecraft to turn all the way around. So what are we doing? Borke is asking what we're doing. We're trying to go everywhere and land everywhere. Because it'll be fun. That's really all it's all about. We're just trying to see what we can do. So I have a spacecraft which is ill-equipped for the task, but I have a lot of helpers that will make sure that I get a chance to go to every single place. Now, where are we here? Duna Depot is ahead of me, so I need to get lower down than it. Okay, so now we've got the ascending node there, so I need to go anti-normal and fix this relative inclination. I'm going to perform all the rendezvous with this spacecraft. You wanted to share my nice Elite Dangerous screenshot, so I don't let anybody share screenshots, mostly because links take time and effort and I have to review them. And the time when I would be doing this, it would mean I would have to not look at the game at the same time, right? Hard mode would be doing this with the Gale planet pack. I think there's a number of places on Gale which would not handle this too well. Ah, there, look at that. So I think a couple of orbits and we'll be rendezvoused here. Ill-equipped. Cut to the bare bones. Where's the best place to get up-to-date information on the Tianyong re-entry? That's a good question because nobody actually knows where the re-entry will be. I also don't like the war score mechanic. What are you reading about? What game are you talking about? I'm a bit overexposed. You know what? Like, that's because, you know, the drivers for Logitech are rubbish. Written by people that can never seem to balance anything correctly. I'm fine. Oh, Stellaris. You know, the war score mechanic is kind of a core thing to Paradox games. It's the way they avoid certain steamroller mechanics and things like that. Okay, this is looking good. Target position there. So again, warp here. So it'll warp all the way around for me. You know, it's much better. Basically, it rewards players who can fight focused wars that are centered on a specific set of goals, a specific limited set of goals. That's what it's supposed to reward, rather than players that want to be in a continual state of war, which is never great. Okay, so how close are we going to be? So what's going to happen? You see, now it's switched over there, right? So this orbit is going to be too short. So what I do is now fire my engines and bring these things as close as possible together. Oh, crap. Overdid it. Okay, so this is where I could really use the super fine maneuvering tool. So what I do is I set my thrust limiter to 4. We'll get this right down into the same ballpark. That's pretty good. Okay, now thrust limiter back to 100%. And I'll warp to about here. Try and get a particles guy in your physics slot. That should increase the chance of new reactor cards getting drawn. There is definitely a strategy. There's many ways you can play the science game as well. Like, a lot of people kind of are unhappy with the randomized mechanics, but basically there's certain technologies that will only show up if you have like a brilliant, is it a brilliant scientist? There's a certain scientist, genius, I don't remember. Okay, now here's the thing. Where is this target, damn it? I guess I'm coming outwards. Yeah, why is that not... why was that not visible? Okay, retrograde. Retrograde relative to the target, moving in at 7 meters per second. Okay, now let's aim towards the target. A manly scientist. Is that why I can't get epigenetic triggers to show up? It may well be. I think epigenetic triggers requires a scientist that is thinking outside the box. Basically, that's the idea. You have to sometimes go with a scientist that isn't necessarily a specialist in the field you want, but a scientist which is likely to come up with crazy ideas. Any public appearances we will be able to see you at soon. Now, I think TwitchCon was the last one that I've planned because, frankly, you know, the family would really like to see a little more of me. That's really what it comes down to. I'm going to be at the Think conference this weekend, which is, if you're not invited, you know, that's it. I'm sorry, it's an invite-only affair. Bunch of old hacker types, and I have found an old hacker type who's like, you should come. So I'm all about that. Okay, let's adjust my trajectory again, like this. .2 meters per second. But the Jet Propulsion Laboratory would like to see more of you. You know what? I think I've shown everything I can at JPL. How was the Candy Hall in the Bay Area? Well, spectacular, I think, is the word we're looking for here. Like, more than anybody could reasonably have ever. You're excited for the Battlefront 2 launch this month. So the space battles look amazing. Okay. Just, again, move towards the target. About one... Oh, that's maybe a little too fast. We'll slow down when I get very close. Nevercast says he finally gotten home from work in time to see you live or live. Maybe, you think that I'm dead because it is Halloween. Maybe you're like, oh wait, I thought that Scott would be among the undead for All Hallows evening. But no, he is still alive. Okay, switch target here. So, control from here. Arm. And then target. And then actually SAS. Aim towards the target. And this one here, I want to aim towards the target. So we'll dock these front to front. Now, when Abyssal Lurker came up with his concept for doing this, he had to have a docking port on his spacecraft because the claw was not a thing. You know what's interesting is that this is not quite lined up with the thing. That's more like it. I wonder. I guess switching thing switches that. Interesting. Okay, well, never mind. RCS. Let's go in for the kill. Have they determined if the comet is on a hyperbolic? No, there is absolutely no doubt about it. C2017 U1 Pan-STARRS is absolutely on a hyperbolic orbit with an eccentricity of about 1.19. It is an interloper in the solar system. It will pass through and head back into interstellar space, never to be seen again unless we send a spacecraft after it. Also, because it is confirmed to be interstellar, it is entirely possible that this object is actually, well, it's from outside the solar system, which means it formed at a different time than the solar system, right? Vander NASA is saying, stop by the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics and say hi. You know what? Vander NASA, pay attention to my Twitter because I do have family. Amy has we have in-laws or whatever in Boston. There's a good chance I may get out there at some point. So I would love to be reminded of that. That's what I would say. Okay, so next. Now we gotta decide to land on this. So I want to land on the daylight side. That's the only thing I would say. So I'm going to drop my orbit just a bit. Bye-bye. We'll bring this down to about like 100 kilometers or something. Yeah, so it's entirely possible that that comet is actually older than our solar system, right? Because if you think about it, the sun is about 5 billion years old. The universe is about 12 billion years old, right? So there's like 7 billion years potentially for things in there. Now, to be fair, to make heavy elements and stuff that's required to make planets and stuff, you still need a bit of time before that because the galaxies have to form. You have to have complete stellar life cycles. The material has to get distributed. But there's plenty of wiggle room in there to have this comet be older than the solar system, right? I mean, isn't that like, holy moly, isn't that amazing? Okay, so I'm going to bring this down to about 20 kilometers. Yeah, I think that's good. So, somewhere along here, we should land. It's not a Colaris... it's a Stellaris urn. Are you referring to the teapot mission? The teapot anomaly? Which is basically, you know, it's a philosophical concept, right? You know, basically some people say, well, you can't disprove the existence of God, and one response is, well, you can't disprove the existence of a teapot orbiting the sun. Like, there's lots of things you cannot disprove the existence of, basically. Is it Russell's teapot? Yes, I forget the name of the I forget the name of everyone. As you may have noticed, I'm bad with names, especially if they're science names. But the teapot is definitely real. Yes. Okay. Is it going so past that even a flyby? So Zlorishin is basically asking, could we get any sort of spacecraft out to it? And no, right now it is essentially moving away from the solar system. And when it gets to infinity, it'll be moving about 26 kilometers per second. So that's the minimum amount of velocity you need. But in fact, you need more than that, right? So you need a fair chunk of velocity over escape's velocity to be able to catch up on this thing. Having said that, we will know where this thing is for centuries. It's going to get too faint because it's relatively small. It's not very reflective. We're not sure the albedo, but it's definitely fading very quickly. So we will lose sight of it, but we will know roughly which part of the sky it's in. And if we invent, some sort of new spacecraft, some sort of new space drive that lets us get, say, 100 kilometers per second of delta V, then, yeah, that would be a really interesting target, right? Yeah. Seriously, spending effort disproving, deities doesn't really get you anywhere, to be honest. Because, you can always modify your argument, and yeah, I wouldn't seriously worry about it. Okay, Periapsis is now inside the planet. So now I just need to figure out when to land it. So that means I need to watch my suicide burn here. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, like, during the well, basically since Galileo, the goalposts on the existence of God have been steadily moved in the direction of science to basically allow God in the gaps, right? Which is cool. And it's like, hey, well, now that we understand this, we don't need, divine influence to explain how the planets move around the sun. And that means it's cool because now we've understood how your God put together the universe. And it's only recently that you've had this crazy strict interpretation which has suddenly decided, no, we don't want to give up any of that. We want to reclaim that lost ground to science. We want to have flat Earth because, hey, it says if you read some parts of the Bible, it could suggest that. And that is really not a good use of your time. Smart people there are many smart people that are religious, and they're not the ones arguing for a flat Earth, put it that way. So anyway, here we go, we're getting lower. So what's my current altitude? It's 4 kilometers. It says my suicide burn is about 700 meters. I'm going to start burning now. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so now I did that just about right. So now I just need to land this sucker. Where's my shadow though? I'm looking for a shadow. I can't... I'm losing all my reference points here. This is part... Oh. Oh. Okay, that's good. We got it. We got it landed. Woohoo! Okay! Seriously, that could be bad news. Okay, so here's the question. Do I have enough delta V to get into orbit? Well, first of all, we're going to plant this flag here, right? Plant flag. We're going to call it Tribute to the Cult of the Teapot. Tribute to the teapot. Russell was an interesting guy. So I think I'm a little sniffly after running around. Okay, apparently I've turned on the thermal stuff. Yeah, you can learn a lot of things, but sometimes when you're falling towards the planet, that's not the best time to be trying to figure out where the shadow is. Uh-oh. Okay. I just realized I might have left. Uh-oh. Oh god. Bored. Okay, turn off SAS. How much Delta V do I have? It says 26,500, so I should have more than enough. Again, F5 here, and we're going to start heading back into orbit, right? Get here on the 90. And so looking for my Apple apps, get it high enough. Oh, beautiful. It's totally getting there. I'm going to get an Apple apps of about 100. Actually, 100 should probably be fine. This thing will have more than enough Delta V. Bingo. Woohoo! Totally escaping Duna! And I don't even need to use my lander. So I did have a lander in reserve, which had a little car. Now I still definitely will need it for definitely for Tylo, probably for Lathe, but I think I'm doing well. So yeah, you're talking about visiting this asteroid. So there are many ways you could hypothetically do it. You could definitely get the velocity by doing a gravity, basically exploiting the Oberth effect by flying close to the sun. But the problem then is your spacecraft tends to melt. And melting spacecraft, not the greatest use of your hardware. Okay, time to Apple apps is 6 minutes. How am I going to get back into the hatch on Eve Tylo? I'm going to just spam climb. Besides, we're not going to take off from Eve. We only need to do it on Tylo and Lathe. I thought about that. I thought I could put like an extension ladder on the Tylo spacecraft. But I just decided I wouldn't worry too much. Like, if I can't put a flag on the surface... If I can't put a flag on the surface of Lathe and Tylo, I don't care, to be honest. And honestly, if it does become a major issue, I can send a new spacecraft out to help him. Because we've staged all our fuel everywhere. Okay, so let's boost ourselves into orbit, circularize, and then we'll rendezvous with our friend in higher orbit. Or maybe it should rendezvous with me. That's good enough. Okay, let's see where they are. They are there, which means I am going to be losing speed on them. I'm going to have these guys come down. Oh, it's interesting actually that we've got the Duna refueler is almost in the same orbit, but it's much lower down. Yeah, nothing like having fuel stations basically everywhere. Oh, I meant to select it rather than switch to it. I am an umpty, you know very little. Switch to... Yeah, we're going to send a multi-billion-dollar mission to bring Jeb a ladder. Here we go. The ascending node, 1.7 meters per second. So this is the ascending node, so we need to do the anti-normal, the vector. And this engine should be enabled, right? Prop flow, yeah, engine is here, so we'll move up close to it. And then that'll correct, and then we'll drop into a lower orbit and play catch-up. No, I mean, the rule I've heard, the rule is that I'm not allowed to use any engines. I'm not allowed to push that spacecraft around, basically using engines on other spacecraft. That would be considered cheating. Okay, that's pretty close. Okay, now we're going to do retrograde and we're going to rendezvous. So what I want to do is bring the periapse height down to about 80? Yeah, 80 will probably be a good number. And then we should be able to refuel. Yeah, I locked the keys in the capsule again. That's right. Okay. So now we're going to swing around to perihelion, so basically warp here. This is me doing rendezvous. So the way they do rendezvous on the space station is a bunch of co-elliptic transfers, right? And when I say co-elliptic transfers, it means that the eccentricity is maintained. And what the spacecraft do is they maintain a constant altitude relative to each other, right? And typically that means actually that they're on both on circular orbit. It's essentially circular as far as we're concerned. Bring this down to about 90. There we go. Maybe even lower still. So now we need to play catch up, and this is what's going to take a while. I live on the East Coast, so now I need to decide which is more important, sleep or Kerbal Space Program. You know what? Kerbal Space Program is amazingly important to some people, but I'm going to say that sleep is also pretty sweet. I am a big fan of having plenty of sleep, which is why you haven't seen as many videos from me. And I've just realized that this camera is pointing the wrong way, in part because a kitty knocked it down a couple of nights ago. We had a mouse in the house. We had a moose loose about this house. And we couldn't catch it. And eventually I just kind of gave up and I left the back door open just a tiny crack and then let the cats chase it around. And I haven't found a dead mouse, so I can only presume that at some point it eventually escaped. I mean, I was wanting to get the mouse out because I didn't want the cats killing it. It would be... yeah. But anyway, yeah, there was stuff knocked all over the place. I live in Russia, so Scott's streams are perfect in the morning. Oh, glad to hear that. I like Russian people, mostly, obviously. I mean, you know, you guys do a lot of cool stuff. But, yeah. I see. You killed mice with peanut butter? How do you kill a mouse with peanut butter? Like, do you just take the jar and whack it? Or is there something else? No, most people in Russia don't know a guy called Papadomodomodos who apparently thought he was playing with the big boys and then decided that he would delete his Facebook. Like, hi, I thought I'd set up a covert meeting to betray my country over Facebook. Like, yeah, I don't know what the ever living like. Oh, look at that! What are the like separation 3 point? I just picked a point, and I get separation of 3.4 kilometers. Can I 3.7? Okay, so I think I need to go up though. So that means dragging this this way. Oh, look at that! Yep. Okay. Oh, there we go. Point two. Well, meeting foreign agents to discuss participation in electoral process, that is actually of questionable legality. But then specifically, so the lesser charge is lying to the FBI, right? Let's be clear on that. So this is what's called a plea bargain, where worse charges were, presented, and in exchange, the something else was given, right? Let's say that. And there's a lot of speculation as to what that something else was, but this happened. The first interview happened in early in the year, and then he was arrested in June, I believe. And so then thing was so basically between June and now, he has been working as an agent for the FBI. There, just put it that way, as an informant, yeah, whatever. Okay, so we're about to make this burn to go up towards the target. 2, 1. Okay, so we gotta get the burn. See, you know what? Here's the funny thing: is there's a bunch of conservative pundits that are all like, well, meeting with Russia is not illegal, right? And it's like, but those are the same people that are like, giving uranium to Russia is terrible. Like, it's like, where's the logic in this? You got to be consistent, otherwise people will call you a hypocrite, right? And I see many sides to many stories, but you got to be consistent, otherwise people will think that you're being biased based upon your own preconceptions. Okay. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna warp to here. Yeah, the uranium thing is a complete non-story. Let's be clear about that. It's just like a way to. It's if you've ever seen Big Train, it's the distracting boss sketch. Have you already landed on Duna? I totally landed on Duna. I am off to Dres. So this could be the next one. I know, I am really like, I clearly it is a strange chat. Yes, we've successfully chatted about politics and religion. As I said, I prefer to come from a point where people agree on things and then try to, Target is 11 meters per second. Okay, there we go. I prefer to figure out what we agree on and do our best to make the world a better place, right? So, let's just try and keep it civil. Remember that ultimately we all want the world to be an amazing place for everybody, right? That's what I say. Yeah, you gotta literally... Yeah. You don't have to agree on everything, but you have to agree that on things like on sane things, let's say. Yes, Jeb for president. That's a good thing to agree on. President Jeb, not obviously Jeb Bush. This is a different Jeb. I am. I'm gonna have to say, yeah, I do have amazing fans, and I do like the fact that I can discuss. And I think maybe it's because I lived in Northern Ireland for 5 years and was pretty good at carefully navigating religion and politics both. You know, and my time in Northern Ireland was occasionally a little scary, but ultimately I'm glad I did it. Yeah. Ah, yes. Okay. Sanity is a relative term depending upon the perspective of events. Jeb is very low energy. What? Oh, Christ, Skulker is telling me that he's pursuing engineering in part because of occasionally seeing me pretend to be an engineer. Let's be clear, I am not an engineer. I merely play one on the internet. Okay, aim towards the target. Ireland, what? Ireland has a fantastic voting system? I don't remember, to be honest. Jeb makes the best guacamole. Okay, and we get tons of fuel here. So let's make this happen. So we figured out that the capsule docking is the most reliable way to do it, right? The capsule seems to be... I think the claw hits, like, you know, vertices or something, and so there's more vertices in a capsule, so it connects to it much more easily. Right, here we go. And liquid oxidizer in. Oh, right, single trans... Well, here's the bizarre thing about elections, right? The US basically had its whole independence thing after the French, but more, the French. There was a guy, the Marquis de Concordat. He basically studied, election mechanics and came up with the best way to do all these things. And yeah, apparently that information never got to anybody that was defining new republics, which is really disappointing because there was a number of... That was the time when they were deposing monarchs left, right, and center, and somehow never... okay, so you know what? We're gonna need to wait. I might have to make several orbits to make this encounter, right? So maybe I should just do the encounter and then we'll make the rendezvous in deep space, right? So here we go. Add maneuver. So the reason is, what I'm going to do is aim for this spot here where the Duna crosses. Sorry, Dres crosses, and then we'll just add a couple of orbits. Oh, yeah. Actually, no, that's wrong. I need to wait until our orbit is crossing here. Crap. Let's just do this. I'm just gonna eyeball this. Oh, that's... Wait a second. Closest approach. Target is like way ahead of me, right? But that's fine. That then gives me an orbit to correct the stuff like this. And so we're basically going to take a couple of orbits to rendezvous with this thing, and that's fine, right? Okay. Orbit. Align up. So now warp to next maneuver. See, there are actually a number of cities in the US which use ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting is superior because it ensures that you don't end up with two different candidates, right? The danger with most election systems is you basically end up with two viable parties, right? I used to be an L2 subscriber, but honestly, I don't have enough time to keep up with it, and you know, I'm not. Yeah, I did subscribe to it once, but I haven't in recent months. Basically, does that make sense? Why does it give me an estimated burn time? We know that this is going to happen. I should probably check that I'm not going to hit target. Yeah, 6.4 kilometers away. That's good. So it says 20 seconds. There we go. Yeah, I'm presuming that's what it is. The NASA spaceflight forums. I did subscribe and I thought it was interesting, but what I then realized that I couldn't really talk about a lot of the stuff. Because, you know, a lot of it was like, don't tell anybody, but... And so it's like, well, I can't really make a video about this. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I learned at SpaceX, which was really cool. I was like, I can't tell anyone. Thoughts on CCP and VR? Yeah, that is a real blow to VR, because CCP had gone all in. And, you know, it is also a shame to see that CCP is kind of stepping back again. They've got... I find it... I feel sad that CCP has never really managed to make a viable sequel to EVE Online, if you know what I mean. A viable thing set within this universe. You know, they've got so much, and it just never seems to be... They never seem to get anywhere. Seems to me that they should create a war game, like an RTS or something. And that would be the most logical thing to do with their assets. I mean... The way that EVE Online works is essentially a real-time strategy game where every player is one unit. Okay, so that'll get us out there, and then we'll try to fix our rendezvous. But yeah, it's more... You know, CCP Atlanta was part of the White Wolf acquisition. Okay, here we go. Off into deep space. And it'll take some time. So I can just like look there and all that. Nothing on yeah, nothing on NASA spaceflight would violate ITAR because you know, they have channels for requesting things get removed, let's say. Well, I just think that the EVE Online does have this... The EVE Online universe has built out this amazing set of... This amazing lore, right? And... You know, I'm just amazed that they've never made like a real-time strategy or like a 4X. Those would all work just fine. Ah, man. My art teacher plays KSP because KSP is a great game for teachers to play. I'm just going to say that. Cthulhu, are you basically stealing the plot from The Watchmen? Dust 514 was interesting as a concept, but part of the problem was that they ended up having to go to Sony to get money to get it made. And of course, that meant that they then ended up having to release it on the PlayStation. Okay, where is the relative hold on. I'm just going to hide this. Vessel, relative inclination. I'm decreasing this, getting it down to 0. Yeah, I wanted Dust. Dust would have been amazing if it came onto PC. It would have worked a whole lot better. It could have given PlanetSide a run for its money, I think. But being stuck on the PlayStation really limited its audience quite substantially. Okay, so now what we're going to do is just create that orbit insertion burn. So see these two nodes, they're going to come together, and at some point they will be best buddies. See this? Closest approach, getting closer. And at least with Dres, we don't worry about losing the Oberth effect. Oh, that's about as close as we can get. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to take that burn and then trim it next. Warp to next maneuver. 1 kilometer per second. So actually, rendezvous vessel. We have 2 kilometers per second of delta V. Yeah, no, CCP, like, part of the thing with CCP is that they spent almost all the money they get just managing EVE Online. They spent a lot of money on computer hardware because of their whole vision that they want everyone playing in the same shard, and that is an admirable goal. I think that it has made EVE a unique game. However, they've also been kind of hampered by their old code base, which is single-threaded. It can't spread to multiple CPUs, and so if you looked, Moore's law in the early noughties was great. Clock speeds were doubling every couple of years, and then suddenly they just hit this wall, bang, around 4 gigahertz, and like, yeah, we're stuck. We're now putting more and more cores, we're getting more efficient cores, but EVE Online doesn't really benefit from having more and more cores. What all that means is they can now put more shards on a computer. So, like, they have... That's been an unfortunate thing that they've never managed to parallelize that code. Okay, now we're going to circularize just a bit. Yeah, transistors can only switch so fast. Because you don't... Before we don't get a nice square wave, yeah. But, I mean, there's possible ways that things can get improved. I don't know exactly, but... I don't see EVE being able to scale up, let's say, the number of people in an instance unless they significantly rewrite a lot of that code. And what a lot of their approaches have been is to move as much of the code into other threads, and so you've still got the core, like the core thing that's calculating the encounters. That's in like this thread, and everything else is pushed out to sub-processes where possible. Like, their destiny is what their physics engine is. And the thing about EVE's physics engine is that everything has to agree. There was actually a problem at one point when they switched over to SSE. It meant that the rounding on, when they started to use slightly different instruction sets on the math, it meant that they were not agreeing on exactly the same thing. So I think actually what I'm going to do, I'm going to make a burn here and adjust that. 33, 32. Oh, totally missed it. It's like amazing how close that is. So what I need to do is this, focus view. Oh, like I'm flying over the top here. So let's see if I can adjust this downwards. Oh yes, brilliant. That's why I can't get any closer. Oh, you know what? Oh wait, I do. I was about to say I do have a depot in orbit around Dres. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's take that maneuver, and once again we sounds like we're heading into warp drive because the washing machine kicks in upstairs. Warp to next maneuver. It will take 2 years. Who goes to Dres anyway? I'm going to Dres. It is interesting, like, there's a... What was it I was thinking that, yeah, you know, back in the 80s, they were talking about photon computers. They're saying, you know, at some point we're going to make photon computers because electrons just don't move fast enough. And if you really want to have a fast processor, you got to have, you know, photons so that you can send the data at the speed of light and process at the speed of light. But you know what? Moore's law said, you know what? We could just make things 10 times closer together. While you guys are trying to build your, like, photonic gates, we'll just make things 10 times, 100 times. Like, yeah, Moore's law totally made photon computers completely pointless. Like, they pushed out the boundary so far that I don't see that we're ever going to have photonic processing ever be an actual thing. But on the other hand, yeah, we're going to see more and more photon interconnects. Right? Photons are a bit too fuzzy to boot. You know what? I just realized I have not been recording. I should probably click recording. There are photonic gates that are the kind of thing right now, but in experimental stages. Yeah, and they'll still not be as fast as other options. They are making optical chips and processors. I already have fiber optic 10G Ethernet in my house. Copper is too slow. And that's fine, right? For interconnect, long distance things, photons are great. The other thing about photons, optical interconnects, is that they can do these really high frequencies nice and easily, whereas electrical things, you need a lot of signal conditioning to make sure that you should still get the Twitch feed. Yeah, I don't know how to download the Twitch feed. I'll have to download that section. That's how I'm going to make my half-hour or 20-minute summary of all that. See, the limit on bandwidth is all down to the highest frequency you can put through a system, right? The highest frequency, once you start trying to send square waves close to your highest frequency, then the higher frequencies get cut off and your square wave starts to turn into a sine wave, and then it becomes harder to actually detect when things get, you know, yeah. How much fuel do I have left? I have about 1 kilometer per second, so I have enough to get into orbit, and then I have enough to probably, you know, get refueled, land, refuel in orbit again, and then head on to Joule. And then things will get really interesting. There's a lot of waiting around for this. Sine waves, ray fine, it's when they're fuzzy. Right, it's when you've got all the extra jaggies. Hysteresis, yes. I'm not really an expert on signal processing, this kind of thing. Let me be clear, there's a whole bunch of stuff that I don't actually know. Thunderbolt was initially called Light Peak and was intended to use all optical interconnects, that's right, but when they found they could get the required speed with regular copper, yeah, because copper is a lot cheaper than doing the photon transition stage, right? Ethernet used to be the fastest port on most computers, but now it's the slowest. Yeah, I remember a time when I hacked the Linux kernel to use my SCSI bus as a network interconnect because I had 10 megabit Ethernet and I could get much better performance out of my SCSI thing. It was like total awful hack. The kind of thing that you can do when you have kernel level access and far too much spare time. I would not recommend it to anyone. There we go. That's pretty good. That's more or less in the same plane. 4,000 kilometers out. At higher speeds, fiber is maybe 1/20th of the cost. Did not know that. Okay, so next we will... I'm going to add another maneuver somewhere. Oh yeah, another maneuver here. So once again, gonna just trim this to get it close. We're doing the NASA approach where we do small maneuvers There we go. Get it as close as I like. Okay. Whoa. Now, actually, that's a good question. We're entering, that's leaving, and this thing is orbiting that way, so that is the direction we want our orbit to happen. And then we'll probably need to do a capture into an elliptical orbit. We'll do an eccentricity, sorry, an inclination correction out here, and then we'll rendezvous. So that is fantastic. Okay. So next maneuver. So I just got to find it and say warp to next maneuver. Oh, don't ask me about naming schemes for networking standards and interconnect standards and all that. That's just like way over my head. And you know, it is interesting that the whole the crack, right, the key replay attacks that were found against the WPA, you know, those basically sat in the standard for years, for over a decade, and people knew enough about the standard on Linux to like implement the standard without paying for it, I guess. And yeah, somebody finally got a look at it and was like, "Well, this is obvious." Well, you know, if I did end up in the wrong orbit, it's just like a very big inclination correction. How do I feel about the 49ers given that I live in the Bay Area? Probably about the same way I feel about the Raiders since I live closer to the Raiders right now. But Golden State Warriors, just they're like 2 miles in that direction, right? You can't see it, but they're 2 miles in that direction. He idles in space he's gonna idle in space for a really long time, but he's quite chill. He's enjoying the view and all that. They used to be in Oklahoma City. I was taken to a game. Yeah, 49ers used to be in Oklahoma? Wow, that's... I don't know. I remember that the Raiders used to be in, like, St. Louis. Was it... No, they were in LA for a while. They were in Oakland and then they went to LA and then they came back and now they're going to Las Vegas. You know, they're sucking regardless where they are. Okay, thrust limiter. I'm just making this really tiny thrust correction here. Okay, let's see how close we are. Oh, I need a lit. Actually, oh, perfect! 23 kilometers? Oh, man. Am I good? No, I'm not. I'm terrible. Okay, warp here. Now let's fix this thing. Reset. Oh, I can't adjust that in flight. I'll need to remember to adjust it. So where's Dres? Since we are going slightly slower than it will probably appear around here somewhere. Yeah, it's going to appear anti-radial. Does anyone see it? Oh, there it is, there's it! Oh, quick. Retrograde. And engine F5 probably. Okay, now we get an apoapsis. That's great, and so we can make our inclination correction because we want to rendezvous with this. Set as target. Not quite correct, but that's fine. We'll make our correction here. I mean, I could probably land on Dres with that, but I don't think I would be able to get it. Yeah, I don't get why the 49ers would be in Oklahoma City. Yeah, that would make sense. No sense. Denver would flip if the Broncos were moved to another state, you think? What was it? The Browns. The Browns moved, and the Cleveland were so mad they forced the Baltimore Browns to rename to the Baltimore Ravens. Okay, I should probably check. This is a descending node, so I need the normal, and then I need to start rendezvous vessel rendezvous 432. Okay, let's just make this really tiny again. One, two. I'm gonna let this get a little closer now. Oh crap! What happened there? No, no. I think I might have cleared my rendezvous request. Set as target. Thank you. Oh wow! Wait. No. I thought I was getting very close, but I'm clearly not. 28 minutes, so I need to get a little closer to the relative descending node again. So what I do is if you get this gets too far away, then you need to get closer, because it essentially runs away from you if you thrust. Like, I find it crazy that the new cell phone stuff is faster than some of the networks that I cut my teeth on, you know. I remember the observatory when I started, there was a 64 kilobit connection, and then it was upgraded to 128, and then later it was upgraded to 256. I was like, holy moly, 128 kilobits? That's insane. You know, when I wrote my first MP3 radio software, part of the thing was, as I set it up, I had basically reflectors was part of the deal, so I created this whole peercast network where if you listened, you could also act as a peer that would rebroadcast it. Okay, I think that's as close enough. Okay, I'm going to reset my thrust limiter. Now I got to figure out how to rendezvous. So first thing, I'm going to add the maneuver there to slow this thing down. And hopefully we can get pretty close to rendezvousing with this target. Yeah, I'm gonna go back. Because that puts target position is there, and that's where I am, so that's gonna be awful. See, if I make it go higher at least, that'll be the second intersect. A relative speed would be 138 meters per second. That wouldn't actually be so bad. I mean, it would be a terribly inefficient rendezvous, but I get tons of fuel in this thing right now. I think I'm just going to do that. Just spare myself a little bit of time. 0.1 kilometers! My God, really? Okay, so warp to next maneuver and target maneuver node. Yeah, my guy worked with a guy who could whistle the 2400 baud connect signals. Yes, make a modem on the hook. Yes. Yeah, I knew those people. I've encountered Captain Crunch in person. Yeah. He's a bit of a raver now. I'm not sure, he's oh yeah, he's a bit of an interesting character that I wouldn't want to be close to. Okay, 46 seconds. No, phone whistling, phreaking was basically, yeah, where you figured out all the command codes for the various exchanges, because the signaling for most phones ended up being in band, right? When you used to dial a phone, you would hear it beep, and what it would be literally doing is sending that beep down the phone line to the exchange, and the exchange would get it, and then it would, then you of course work in the dial mechanic. In the old days, right, you used to have a rotary dialer, and the rotary dials, those pips would go and it would actually cause you'd basically have these switches that would, every pip would knock it down one little length in the ladder. And that's how, okay, that's 4.3 kilometers. That's pretty good. So I'm going to warp to here. And, of course, switching over to tones meant that they could dial faster. Yeah, analog switching, I remember building a phone, and there was basically you could just push it on and off, and you could actually dial by hammering the switch very, very quickly. The problem was, of course, hammering the switch quickly enough to make it work for anything was really, really hard. It required a bit of patience to get it right. Yeah, the Captain Crunch was... He famously, supposedly, took a whistle from a box of cereal and made it work. Yeah, I don't remember the exact details. Anyway, so in the old days, phones used to have all this signaling in band, and this, particularly with payphones, you could actually go in and play the right tones down the handset after you picked it up and get free phone calls, right? That's kind of part of the origin of the phone freaking thing, was because, hey, we could get free phone calls by doing this. Payphones eventually got smart enough, got fixed, so that they sent the signaling out of band. That is, they used a separate thing. They wouldn't connect the mouthpiece until the connection was established. Now, there's another very famous example of in-band signaling, which you're probably aware of, and that is the Quindar tones that are on the Apollo missions, right? So Quindar tones are the beeps that are heard when mission control is talking to the astronauts, and that is essentially, they wanted to rent, they had these leased lines, right, that would connect them to their various facilities, and having multiple of these was expensive, so they used a single line, and then they used this, oh shoot, now I'm only going 6 meters per second. So yeah, they would have the mission control connection, say to, I don't know, whatever, to Australia. They would have a permanent leased line running, and the telemetry would run across this. But when they wanted to send signals, they would play these Quindar tones to say, okay, somebody wants to speak, and go beep. And then at the end of the message, it would play a slightly different beep that would switch the thing back over to telemetry. So yeah, that's another example of in-band signaling, and you can hear it on all the tapes. And of course, that shouldn't exist in any modern communication system, because nobody has the need. All digital communication systems are smart enough to be able to multiplex all the different data streams without having to play these silly beeps. And you still hear them in movies and TV shows where there's astronauts. Yeah, movies, TV shows, everything. They love still putting this stuff in there. Yeah, Hackers also has Johnny Lee Miller in it as well. If you remember, he was in Trainspotting, right? He's now in Elementary right now. Yeah. Yeah, Hackers is a hilariously bad movie that hackers actually love, even though it's hilariously bad. But if you really want to watch a good kind of movie on that theme, I would recommend Sneakers. Sneakers is actually much more realistic in many, many ways. It's still ridiculous, but it does a number of things a lot more realistically. And it had these great archetypes that had Robert Redford, River Phoenix, Sidney Poitier, Dan Aykroyd. Who else did it have in it? It was great. It had Ben Kingsley, had James Earl Jones. It had so many awesome people in that movie. It was an ensemble cast, and yeah. And I didn't realize until I rewatched it a few years ago that it's also in the Bay Area. So there's this whole scene with the bridge where they're trying to figure out what bridge he was crossing based upon what he could hear from inside the trunk of a car, right? And it was one of my favorite scenes, and of course I live in the Bay Area, so now I got to see, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Oh, The Last Starfighter. Yeah. That was not the most realistic movie. I mean, if you're gonna do a funny, I don't know, I think Last Starfighter is kind of like Harry Potter for spaceships. It's like, you're actually gonna save the universe against Zur and the Kodan Armada. Greetings, Starfighter. Your job is to protect the universe against Zur and the Kodan Armada. Fly safe. Oh, no, that's not what he said. Oh, gotta arm it. Quick, arm it. Don't. Should probably F5 again, right? As I said, I recommend watching Sneakers. Yes, C-Tech is strong. And that's the other thing that's awesome about Sneakers, is that the gizmo that they're all after is basically a device which factors numbers really, really fast. And that's like such an obscure reference that only a computer security person would understand why it would be a truly awesome gizmo. Of course, the way that they use it by plugging into the network and decrypting everything doesn't really make sense, because most of the systems used at that time weren't using, Diffie-Hellman style key exchange or public key or whatever. Oh, what did I just do there? Nothing exploded, so I think I'm fine. Like hackers, it's a... yes. Well, it's, factoring large numbers was... it's not just RSA. Like, there's many key exchange protocols that use it. Okay, so now we need to land. So I guess I'm going to wait until I'm around here. Oh, swordfish. Yes, swordfish. Yes. But if you really, hey, I tell you, if you really want to see awesome bad computer hacking and astronomy, I recommend watching Salvation. That TV series is so ridiculously over the top. It has the whole crazy hacking computer plot thing going on, but it also has Russian agents, killer asteroids, nuclear weapons, internal government coups to try to take control of the US government. It is just stunning. It's pretty hilarious. Okay, I think I'm gonna be able to land there. Why is Kotharis saying 10 kilometers? Yeah. Okay, we're getting close. Amateur movie TV room viewer. What do you think of the new Google Pixel? I'm not an Android person. I'm not I think it seems like a fine Android cell phone, but I don't use Android because I use iOS, because, you know, I can choose what stuff goes on Google. I like the fact that yeah, I do work for Apple, but even if I wasn't working for Apple, I would still be using iOS hardware. Let's be clear. I was using Apple long before I ended up working at Apple. And nothing that has changed, nothing that's happened in the last 5 years would have changed that. Will you try the Boring Company's tube in LA when it comes out? Isn't more the question about where it comes out? I wonder if I can land it right on this white area here. How close do you think I am? Is that even flat enough to land on? It's probably not. I think it might be, actually. Yeah, I'm totally going to try landing on this. Yeah, we're going to land on the white area because it's high. And it looks kind of flat, that's why. And we're over the top. Okay. Now, there's plenty of things that the iPhone... You know, here's the thing, like, there's all these people that are like, hey, the iPhone X, it does facial recognition, and, like, Android's done that for years. And, like, you know what? Android has done it badly for years. Let's be clear about that. And the processors in the new devices are by far the fastest out there. Like, way faster than anything else. It's not even close. So yeah, you know, you could find a cheaper device that does many of the things, but you couldn't find that device. And we've landed. Let's turn off stability control. F5. EVA! And let's go walk it about. There we go. There we go. Okay, and so I need something to say. Wait a second. Dres. It's boring. But it's still more interesting than swordfish. There we go. Oh. You hate Apple over the no headphone thing, and yet it's not like they're alone in that. This planet will be immortalized as an insult to swordfish, yes. Beats by Dres, yes. I tell you what, you know, one of the things that, you know, everyone talks about hardware. I'm going to say, you know, Apple Radio, the Apple Beats Radio really is fantastic. I mean, I like a lot of my niche radio stations. I was a big fan of John Peel. And it is a great station. Okay, let's do this. I can just, like, hammer sideways, right? So now the next thing is I want to rendezvous with my target here. Set as target, and because I'm slightly ahead of it, this might take a bit of work. Hey, you know, like I'm a fan. I use everything. Let's be clear, right? Yes, RK711. Every single benchmark that has been tested and published demonstrates that it is that much faster. Yes. So you can ask these rhetorical questions, or you could actually take a look at the test results. That's what I would say. Yes, I like my hashes to be salty as well. Oh, come on. Yes, salted hashes are the way to go if you want real security. Dres, it's boring. So you know the next place we have to go obviously is Joule. What is faster? What is faster than what? I missed something. You know what? Let's see if it'll work now. Ah, that's it. You see, if it's doing physical time acceleration, it never stops doing physical time acceleration. Yeah. Oh, Viking Pirate. Basically, the new iPhones are just, you know, out of this world in terms of performance compared to all the other handsets. And it's largely because Apple's put a lot of, you know, a lot of work into making very fast hardware. Most people don't actually need it, but hey, you know, it's good. I mean, the funny thing is, right, the iOS will encode 4K video faster than my desktop with a super high-end graphics card in it, right? Like, it's insane. My computer will take forever to record these things. Okay, so there's the descending. And we're pretty much in the place. You know, a lot of people, I'm just saying, a lot of people dismiss Apple incorrectly as like, oh, it's only about, you know, looking nice. It's not. I mean, like, we like to put good hardware together. Yes, but you know, Exide who's saying, "Oh well, you know, the phone's doing that." Let's be clear, my computer also has accelerated graphics hardware for video encoding, right? NVENC, and you know that still can't keep up. Okay, so here's the thing. Now we got to do some orbiting to let this catch up. I can't warp faster than 100 times. This could be some kind of thing. Can you play Star Citizen on the iPhone X? You can't even play Star Citizen properly on a PC right now. You can only play their limited version. We're still waiting on 3.0, which was originally promised for Christmas last year. Target position at intersection is actually now ahead of me. So hold on. So now I'm going to slow down. I'm going to try and find out where I should rendezvous here. Look at this, 5.4. Oh, I'm telling you, I think I must be getting just really good at guessing through this in my head. 1.9 kilometers, so... Okay, no, I think I was on the right track there. 1.6, 1.4. Can you move a little further around? 0.8 kilometers. 0.6, 0.5. Okay, I'm just going to take that, right? So we need a 2.4 meter per second burn there. Oh, Blargy Paston, you mean the NASA video? Yeah, you should absolutely watch. I put up part 2 and part 3, so it's definitely a lot of cool stuff there. You want Whiskey Weasel? Are you looking for a Are you looking for a refund? Is that what you're saying? Okay, you know what? I need to do this. Now, you know, the game will take, I don't know how long the game will be development for. I can tell you what games I have promoted which definitely aren't coming. The Mandate, that is dead as dead will ever be. And that's such a shame because I was really looking forward to playing a Russian space aristocrat. There was something really exciting about that, but that game is so dead. Which really is a shame. Why did the last SpaceX landing catch fire? Well, apparently the one before that caught fire because the tetraethyl borane, the tetraethyl aluminium, somehow leaked out or came out straight after landing. So I'm wondering if it's the same thing. Okay, let's do this. Target 4.9 kilometers. So I'm gonna do this. Oh, crap! Crap, too much. I overcooked that a little. Okay. Yeah, it is. It's really sad to hear about Visceral being shut down. You know, Visceral started in the same space as EA currently calls their head offices. It really is sad. Yeah, I don't like the direction of EA in terms of their single player game. But then again, nobody bought, you know, they looked at the sales of Mass Effect Andromeda and they were like, well, nobody cares for that anymore. How long are you staying on DST in the US? I don't know. Like, it might be this weekend we're going back. I don't ever remember what time switch when. Yes, they're burning the candle at both ends for SpaceX. That is about right. By the way, we are working on a t-shirt. A number of people have asked me, would I do like a shirt design? And we think we have a design. It's check your staging. We got some cool stuff. Watch this space. Okay, November 8th is the change time. Great. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the Mass Effect, you know, the animation. I didn't care about that. I've yet to forgive Disney for giving EA the exclusive license for Star Wars game. Yeah, that sucks, I know. I quite liked it, and I think it's just disappointing that we'll never see another X-Wing. Right, we're going to see Battlefront and its sequels where you'll have kind of crappy-ass versions of the X-Wings. You're not going to see anything like X-Wing where you had these great missions where you were having to balance your weapons and your shields and you could direct them forwards and backwards and you were having to tell your wingmen to do things. Yeah, very disappointing. We'll also not see another Empire at war. Wait, 5th? Kotharis is a knob. Do you know what a knob is? Okay, November 5th is daylight savings time. Well, there we go. Okay, just getting into Rendezvous here. Yeah, I think X-Wing... Well, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter was definitely the weakest of the four. I think X-Wing was possibly... I think TIE Fighter is easily the best, and X-Wing Alliance is up there as the second best. And X-Wing kind of gets a bye because it's still pretty good. but it's not quite as good as it could be. Okay. So yeah, I definitely think TIE Fighter is by far the superior. Okay. There we go. Cancel the slippage and then head towards the target. And oh, it's still armed. I don't need to arm it this time. The funny thing is, if you look at, if you look at Elite, obviously plenty of people play that, so it just wouldn't get the same kind of numbers as Star Wars Battlefront. Which, I'm not a fan of the new. I mean, it's great production values. I totally can't fault these games for their production values. Do I play Digital Combat Simulator? I have a confession to make that I've bought a ton of stuff in DCS and never spent any significant time on it. Okay, so let's refuel this thing. We don't really need daylight savings time. It was implemented because of wartime conditions. I think that is a popular misconception. Okay, release F5. Should probably let it get a little further away and then F5 again. Right, so next destination is Jewel. Or should I go to Elu, actually? Oh no, Elu would be on the far side. Man, they're so close together. So actually, I should let it get ahead of me. It won't let me go more than 100 times at time acceleration. So this is when I need to go back to the tracking station and do things faster there. So now we can do time acceleration here. So I want to let Jewel get out in front of me. That's the main thing. I just find it strange that Britain changes it at one time and I change it at another. Meanwhile, all the Kerbals starve to death. That's correct, yeah. Hey Scott, how are you? I am what I am. Now I'm wondering, I might actually... Oh, man, should I go for Elu first? I think I should definitely go for Jewel first, because there's so much more in there. And then from here I can then swing down and head towards Moho. Moho might be the hard one, because I think I'm going to have too much Delta V to kill in one thing. I'm probably going to have to leave Elu, do my burn, and then chase after myself. Okay, Scott, how are you doing? I am doing fine. RGLIPT. Mountain time is the best time. Mountain time is the time zone that everyone forgets. I'm not landing on Jewel, thankfully, but it has many moons that I am interested in landing on. Man, it's almost midnight and I haven't got very... This is why these things take forever, right? Obviously, I just do this because it gives me an excuse to chat to you guys about things. And I'm really happy that we've managed to bring in politics and religion and not end up with everyone hating each other. Right? And now we brought in daylight savings time. I figured that the politics and religion were softening you guys up for discussion of daylight savings. Uh-oh, Ibinix has crashed into a star by the sound of things in his Diamondback Explorer. Oh yeah, we brought up EA and Apple as well. I love, I love Google, and I've contributed to various Linux projects and stuff like that. So if you have an Android device, odds are there's chunks of my code that's in there anyway. So the only thing I probably didn't contribute to is Windows. It's not that and it's not like anything you would ever know because I just poked in stuff into like the Og Vorbis. I worked with that, and I worked on code tables and other weird, corners of that. And at that point, I hated using source control systems, so a lot of my stuff never got logged as a patch from me, right? Okay, this is taking forever. This is where I wish I had like 1,000,000 times time acceleration. So Jeb has been in space for 10 years. What would you sign off as in source? Alright, no logs. No, that's what I'm saying. I would like send people changes. It would be like Jack and Monty, and I would say, hey, you guys, can you here's a suggestion, and then it would... I know I've got stuff that's publicly logged in Xpilot because somebody asked me, and it was like, or somebody said, hey, you patched Xpilot, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess I did. Like, I don't know, there's all these, and like FFmpeg, some of that stuff came back from me as well, but I think some of it was tagged by somebody else, somebody I worked with. Does Apple use SVN? I cannot tell you what Apple uses for its internal code tools unless somebody else has told you. Sorry, it's not something I can talk about. Yes, Kerbals live for thousands of years using vacuum energy. But yes, I do use source control now. You know what I need to do? Oh, shoot. Okay, it's interesting you can't double-click on the sun so easily. Sorry, Madios69, you cannot be posting things. No, Whiskey Weasel, you're confusing Apple with NASA from the 1960s. Oh, man. I'll tell you what, though. In my years of coding, I've used RCS, I've used CVS, I've used SVN, used Git, used Bitkeeper, so a Perforce. I used a whole bunch of things. And Mercurial, yeah, I think I've encountered Mercurial as well. You know what's telling? I don't think... Let me just see. Is there... Oh yeah, there is a spacecraft around here, but it hasn't deployed its antenna, obviously. Looks like there's two there. This is going to take some time. Yeah, I use RCS for Kerbal. RCS stands for Revision Control System, and I believe it is one of the oldest. And the reason I originally encountered RCS is because I would be typing VI to edit files, and I would occasionally type CI by accident. I'd be like, oh, what the hell is CI? Oh, it's check in. Check in is part of like RCS. I think that's what it is. So yeah, now you know. I have actually seen a video of someone reverse engineering a chip. They took pictures of the ones and zeros. It blew my mind. Yeah, I've seen that. There's a great article on reverse engineering some of the special chips that were in Super Nintendo cartridges, and it is a real revelation. I guess there's a lot to be said for it. Okay, surely I have someone orbit. Yeah, Elu Depot. There's just one, and there's one orbiting Joule. Vim for the win. Yeah. Was a stepping stone between SVN and DVCS. This takes a long time. Years 12. So we're now been in space for 12 years. Yeah, as the chips get smaller and smaller, it gets harder and harder to examine the processors. In the old days, they could actually take X-rays of chips that were like running. Now, what they could actually take X-rays of the chip with the clock signal frozen, so that they could figure out what memory state was in there. And I remember reading about these maybe it was a network card which was used in ATMs and bank computers, and how these network cards were supposed to be basically super hardened against all sorts of physical attacks. For example, they would come as a board that was sealed inside epoxy so that you couldn't get at any of the hardware, you couldn't photograph it. It would have a radiation sensor that if it detected it, it would immediately wipe the memory. So if you were trying to like X-ray it, it would do that. And a temperature sensor, and if the temperature started dropping too quickly, it would think you were trying to perform a cold boot attack against it, and then it would use the battery and wipe out the memory. There was a bunch of things like that. Oh yeah, and it would have 2 layers of wire mesh, right? So they would put a layer of epoxy on, wire mesh over that, and that would be connected to the ground, and then they would have then they would do a second insulating layer and ground that, and then put another layer over the top. So the idea was, if you started to drill into it or try to cut it, you would complete the circuit, and it would then say, oh, someone's trying to take me apart. Erase the memory. It was they wouldn't necessarily fry themselves. It would just mostly wipe the memory. Fun stuff. It's always fun thinking your way through these kind of infosec things. You know, how would I deal with that? Your career is 72 years. What does that mean? Oh, your career mode. Yeah, and we're on to 14 years now, and we're still trying to get into position to get the to get to Joule. Yeah, Bitcoin storage keys. Oh, no. Need to learn how to rendezvous with Realism Overhaul and Principia. I'm not actually talking about the Trezor hack, but I'm just talking about general hacks in general, because I get really fascinated. The Trezor wallets don't actually use... Oh, is this the guy that accidentally lost like $30,000 of Bitcoin in his Trezor wallet? InfoSec is fun because I think the skills that I learned in InfoSec I can apply to all my careers. It's just all about thinking your way through problems and thinking about the corner cases. Learning to think about corner cases has made me a better programmer. Okay, I think I'm gonna time freeze. Now, where am I? You know what? I'm actually pretty close. This is a good time for me to perform that burn. Okay, so, Fat Man. Sheriff Fat Man. Okay, so we need to perform a burn around the back here, which will probably be about there. Oh, no. Slash to cancel slash. No, what I need to do is add a maneuver. Pardon me. Set as target. Yeah, we're actually pretty close to the... oh, look at that! Okay, so I might need to turn this around a little, because I think I might have waited too long to actually do this. I know. I was talking all that time when I should have been starting my transfer orbit. So that's it slightly in front of me, so that means I need to actually go inside, right? And by going inside, it means that my orbit is slightly faster than theirs. So the target position will be in front of me. I don't really want to do another orbit. I should probably figure out my closest approach here. Okay, yeah. Oh, crap. Didn't mean to do that. Get my closest approach down a bit more. $520 meters per second, so, you know, we're not doing too badly. Oh, what the hell happened? How did my closest approach suddenly do that? Oh, there we go. We got a close approach. Excellent. We got an encounter. And we can tweak that in a bit. So, maneuver. Zoomity zoomity zoom. Yeah, this is far from ideal, but whatever. Okay. I'm waiting for the mod that allows the Death Star to become an unknown object you can orbit. Yes, who doesn't want a Death Star in Kerbal Space Program? Okay, here we go. 58 seconds. And I think we will miss our spacecraft here. It is interesting that, you know, we've been orbiting for like 5 years and we end up 2 kilometers from each other after all this time. It's kind of hilarious. Okay. Here we go. Only 2 weeks from my birthday, wondering what my wife and girlfriend are going to get me. They've apparently planned together. I am only slightly nervous. Are you showing off that you have a wife and a girlfriend? Is that really what you're saying, Ibanix? Or is this the same person? I just want to be clear on this. I mean, it's in the Bay Area, you know, all that stuff's totally acceptable. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well, it's all good where I live. Okay, let's see if I've actually got myself an encounter after all that. Oh, yes, I do actually. Coming up from underneath, so we're gonna obviously need to fix that a bit, but we'll do that. So it is 12:03, and I am gonna get kind of tired, but I'm gonna add a maneuver. Where's the best place to add a maneuver, actually? That is actually the best place to add a maneuver. Because I want to trim my approach a little. I don't think that'll work. Okay, that's pretty good. Slower, 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 slower. Oh, wow. Wait a sec. Look at this. That's cool. So we get one encounter and then we get a second encounter. But they're both really high inclination. So what'll have to happen is we'll have to do a high inclination dive inside the orbits, like really close, and then we will do the inclination correction. I want to get as close as possible to Joule to perform this. Actually, I should. Well, let's finish working on this. about 100 meters per second now that I'm getting. That seems inordinately large. So the closer I get to Joule, the less delta V I ultimately need to burn, paradoxically. And that maybe... Here we go. So you can work in two axes very slowly. See, I don't want that to happen, right? Because then that means that my thing is down there, my closest approach. So if I can make sure the perihelion or periapse is like in the plane, that will actually be more efficient for me. Okay, 151 meters per second, and then my capture burn will be pretty small. I can deal with that. Okay, so here we go. So I got 2 maneuvers to do here, and I have about 2751 delta V available to me. So I should be able to do that. Oh, yeah. This one. So warp to next maneuver. And again, gonna take a really long time. Bye, Dres. Sorry, totally forgot you. We're gone. You're gone. Bye. My friend shop, they moved to NoSQL and then realized, oops, and are now moving back. Well, you know, NoSQL doesn't solve all your problems, but one thing that NoSQL and various other very simple key value stores do solve is it stops people writing giant joins and trying to do all their math inside the database rather than in nodes that are external to the database that could be making things faster. That's, I guess, is what I'm saying. I do find that database designer disease is a big thing where they try to flatten their schemas so much that they, or try to, you know, normalize their schema so much that they end up wasting tons and tons and tons of CPU on joining all that stuff together. It's not just painful, it can just like literally kill the performance of your database. And it's very easy for an amateur to come in, or a professional who's like just got all these Oracle qualifications. I get 99 problems and then I wrote another join. Now I have 100 problems. Yeah. Is there a mental hospital on Kerbin able to treat Jeb's craziness once he gets back? Look, he's just been binge watching Stranger Things or something. Oh man. No, hipsters all wanted to be Ruby programmers. That's what I remember. Like, so you don't program Ruby? I'm like, nope. I don't program Ruby because Ruby is something that is not for me. You know, now I'm thinking about it, I really should just... I think I'm actually not going to do this full burn. I'm going to do it when my perihelion is here. Not periapse, right? And again, the reason is I want to perform this capture myself. Let's see if I can do this. Add maneuver. So that way I can correct the inclination a little better. And it should probably actually save me if I do the capture and everything here. So although we could definitely do the whole Ober thing and whatever, we're going here. And this will be my target. Now, do I have a spacecraft around Paul? Set as target. I'm pretty sure I have a spacecraft around Paul. I do have a spacecraft around Paul. That's the obvious place for me to go first. And I should be able to do it just fine. So I am actually just gonna warp to next maneuver. 2 years! Another 2 years! And we'll be there. And we'll come up from underneath. Here we go, here we go, here we go. Okay, so looking out, yeah, it should literally be radially out from the sun, right? So sun is there. We need to turn 180 degrees and look up, and there should be Joule up there somewhere. Anybody see it yet? It should be a star moving among the other stars. Joule is generally the easiest one to see because it's the biggest, obviously. It's totally there, look. Oh, wait a second. What should it be next to between these two stars? Would that be... Oh, there it is. I see it right there. Do you see Joule twinkling? It's probably going to look very hard. It's hard to see in the thing, but I can totally see Joule right there. Beautiful. The problem with Ruby, I think, was that it had very ill-defined... it never had a proper standard. That's what many people ended up having issues with, and it ended up being bloated. It ended up getting Pearl disease. I use Python as well. There we go. Isn't it so beautiful? Oh, with distant object you can actually hover the name out. That's cool. You know, Perl is a perfectly good language. And I'm saying that as someone that implemented huge amounts of code in it. If you look at my EVE Online, like 2 months of EVE Online statistics, it shows like heat maps and things like that. That was all written in Perl. Well, I remember seeing a game engine that was written in Perl, or sorry, it was interfaced with Perl, and that kind of blew my mind that somebody would want to write a game in Perl. It works pretty well for many things. So this is as we're starting to come up below the orbit here. Java running on the J2EE framework is not a fun time. Yes. I mean, the first games I wrote were written in BASIC, and that is a language that's absolutely not fit to run high-performance software in. There's Jewel. Look at how beautiful it is. Yes, beautiful, giant and green, hanging in the sky. You can actually see some of the moons moving around it now as well. And we're going to be in the plane. Okay, so now I'm just going to perform. What I just realized this maneuver really needs to be fixed. So hold on, everything orbits that way around. So I'm actually at least in the correct orbital thing. So I'm going to do this. Okay. I'm just trying to bring the orbit down. I mean, we get plenty of time here. That's pretty close. Okay, so we're going to use that burn. So this is basically us capturing and putting ourselves into a regular thing. Pascal, I wrote a bunch of stuff in Pascal as well. It was part of my... Like, when I did my master's thesis, or master's degree, they wanted us all to write a lot of our test code in Pascal. And... yeah. QBasic there. I wrote a lot of stuff in GFA Basic for the Atari ST there. You know, that really dates me. Yeah, COBOL is a real man's language. Yeah, if you, it's oh boy. There we go. Bingo. That's how we're looking. That's nice. I did set up our encounter for this target around 6.4 degrees. So now I'm going to fix my maneuver here. Yeah, Paul is the place that we want to go. Okay, hold on. Descending node 6.4. Yeah, this has been one of my Tuesday nights. I mean, this whole series is going to be a Tuesday night stream with surprisingly few number of explosions, because we're all about actually doing nice, you know, stable maneuvers and rendezvous and things like that. Ah, there we go. I think descending node 0 degrees. Okay, warp to next node, or warp to next maneuver. Okay, 1 minute to rendezvous. We'll do. So Fortran is still used because, yeah, there's a lot of scientific code in it. Like Fortran 77, because it has very limited support for custom data types and things like that, and it doesn't support recursion. So there's lots of optimization things that you can do more easily in it. It was easier to write optimizers for it than it was for C. But ultimately, it's a pretty niche thing these days. Okay. So I should probably fire retrograde and see where I end up. Be nice if I can at least get into orbit around Paul without... Okay, so that's what I'm going to do, is we're going to work to here. And I should focus on this. A COBOL programmer made so much money in 1999 getting ready for Y2K that he cryogenically froze himself at the end of his useful years. Yes, that's a pretty good joke, yes. COBOL programmer preparing for Y2K. How much do I have in terms of delta V here? Delta V 1879. I think I can do this. This is totally going to work. Okay, so if I can get into orbit around Paul. Oh crap! Overdid it. Okay. Let's put the thrust limiter on and drive prograde and make this happen. Yeah, 2038 is the one that's going to be big, although I'm not sure that will affect COBOL in the same way. Oh, Paul! I actually got a Paul encounter. Why didn't I see that? Let's see what happens. Oh, yes. Now, the only thing is, yeah, we need to move that encounter over to the other side. There we go. Oh, crap. Oh, that's a little too close. I guess, look, I'm going to tweak this when I get a little closer, right? I'm going to tweak this, like here. That's what's going to happen. F5 again. Man, it's like 12:21. I really should probably go to sleep, right? Well, the thing about 2038 is it's not the processors that are the problem. It's the libraries, right? There's many libraries that still expect a 32-bit time, right? The processors may be 64-bit, but the libraries that are running this code, they don't know what they're doing. Okay, so let's actually just add it. Maneuver here, 32 minutes away. So do I... There we go. Just slightly out. I think I want to probably come in at around the same distance as this thing. And then I can chase after it if necessary. Okay, so that's that. And then just really tiny amount of thrust. So we have about 1894 delta V. Well, here's the thing. You could recompile everything, but internally, somebody would have to review the code and make sure that it doesn't use it or doesn't cast it into some data structure that where integers are 32-bit or whatever. And then if you do that, you might then find that you've got data files where it's stored as a 32-bit number, and then you're like, oh crap, you know? Okay, let's fix the thrust limiter here. Now, can I get into orbit? This is where I find out. Oh yeah, totally! Oh man! 200 meters per second to get into orbit. That's beautiful. Okay, so warp to next maneuver. We're looking for Paul now. Which one of these lucky moons is going to be my first destination? I think it might be this one. It looks sufficiently spiky and it looks like I'm catching up on it. Hello, Paul. Like a giant grain of pollen. That's what you are. Okay, let's put this into orbit now. We're going to put it into a capture orbit, and then from there, we'll then figure out how to do the rendezvous. Okay. Well, I mean, you saw my interview with Doug where he pointed out that the rovers on Mars are already laser armed and run AI to decide what to shoot. So, you know, we're set as target. Ascending node, 2.1 degrees. Okay. Actually, this is the maneuver we need to... But we're miles out of anywhere. Excellent. Warp to next maneuver, and then I gotta go to bed. And I'm orbiting the same direction and everything. Brilliant. 0.00. Excellent. Okay, now we just need to figure out how to rendezvous these things. So, relative speed 9. Really, relative speed 9.5 meters per second. God, this is so easy. Okay. Paul would be a lot tougher if you could collide with... You know, I remember the first time landing on Paul, I was worried that that might actually be a thing I had to be concerned about. Okay, once again, I'm going to go for the super precise maneuver. In fact, what I could do is just watch this thing here. When it gets small, just kill it. Well, you know, pushing robot, I heard one story that apparently they didn't want to do Windows 9 because there were programs out there that actually checked for like Windows 95 or 98. And so they would just see, like, does it say Windows 9 star, you know, asterisk, whatever, wildcard. And therefore Windows 9 would match that and it would fail in spectacular ways. So they decided against that. That's why it became Windows 10. Okay, I think that's about as close as I can get. Oh, 0.1! Ha! Oh, beautiful. Warp here. Okay, there's my target, 2.2 kilometers out. Yeah, there was definitely like different internal version numbers, but lots of people wrote code in weird ways that weren't necessarily using the standard APIs for checking things. So there was a lot of people checking just like version strings. Okay, retrograde. Devs can be really annoying. They never do exactly what you want them to. Windows 32, lean and mean. Okay, here we go. Coming in at about 2.4 meters per second. Okay, now switch targets, and actually you now need to aim at your target. Arm. Control from here. Target. Target aim. We're still all connected. Reaction control thrusters enabled. And one more successful capture. Can we all please talk about the greatest Windows version, ME? What was the one that remembered pointing out that they had Windows CE, ME, and NT, and when you put them all together, you get Windows Cement. Okay, so that is as far as I can go tonight. I have spent far too much time. But at least I have got here. That is good sign. F5. Maybe I should probably disconnect these guys at least. I never used BE or BIOS. Yeah. Oh right, no, NT was ultimately became a well-designed system, and it's really good that Windows managed to sort out many of its weird problems from backwards compatibility. BIOS, what BIOS did, it did very efficiently. Put it that way. I'm actually in the best position to land it. I'm not gonna land it. I gotta save. That's me. Can't afford to. Jebediah Kerbin. Be a hipster, use Haiku OS. That's right, yeah. Okay, I have got to say goodnight. Farewell. Thank you all for sitting and watching me just perform maneuvers and talk about stuff. I hope you enjoyed the talking because I did a lot of that. Yeah. See you all. See you around. Fly safe.